So how good is the Wii as a console? So first thinking about it, the whole thing that made the Wii popular was the motion controls. And to be honest, the motion controls is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, the motion controls is what attracted casual players to play the Wii and is what made it so popular. On the other hand, for a lot of core gamers, the term that's used, it's it turned out to not be the greatest thing for games. It didn't really get in the way, but like it's a gimmick. That's all it is. It wasn't the next big thing. It was just something that was cool at the moment and everyone forgot about it. And when you come back to the Wii, it's one of those things you kind of not really it's not really something that would make you want to play it again. Don't get me wrong, it was still cool for the time. It was also important to note that a big reason why the Wii did well is because it still did have like good games. Like Wii Sports at the end of the day was fun to play with like friends and family at the end of the day. The motion controls was just made it more interesting and it allowed people who normally wouldn't understand games maybe as much understand it. But I think the key thing here is that motion controls made games more simple. And if you look at the Wii Remote's design, it's a very simple design. So at the end of the day, the Wii was all about keeping it simple. Honestly, that's really what the Wii focused on. Now, if you think about the games though that the Wii actually had, it did have some good games, but also had a lot of garbage. Like especially that's really I think the first point where you actually start seeing this shovelware. Because I think about it, shovelware has it always existed? Yes. Has bad games exist like that? Yes. I don't think the scale and the intensity we've seen has ever been as big as it was on the Wii. I think that jump started because obviously it still exists today. I think the Wii jump started it because bad games still existed, but they weren't as many as pumped out, made by as many people. I was look at like Steam and even like the Switch shop today. Like there's so much garbage on that. And I think the Wii is the first console that started it, and it makes it where when you go back to play the Wii, like if you only play like the games you had, it's good. But like there's so much bad games on the Wii. Here's the thing: is everyone who owned the Wii, I guarantee, there's one person who, I mean, what am I saying? Everyone who had a Wii, I guarantee everyone had that one game that was just really bad, but at the same time you played a lot. But anyway, the other thing I think that made the Wii really good is the virtual console. Because you have to remember, at the end of the day, most people who own a console aren't PC gamers. And I think there's this weird overlap where you have a lot of PC gamers who own a console, but you don't have a lot of people who own a console who also play games on PC. Now there is overlap, don't get me wrong. But especially because we attracted a casual market, there are definitely people who played the original Nintendo and Super Nintendo that probably didn't play games for a bit and then got a Wii. So the virtual console allowed people to play those old games without needing to emulate, which for a lot of people is way too complicated for them to know what they're doing. Like, even though it's very simple, it does take a bit of computer knowledge, which not everyone has. So the virtual console, I think, is what really made, at least for me, I think that's really what brought the Wii up for me. Because I haven't seen any other console yet this far in the 2023 that has done I guess virtual console you could consider backwards compatibility. I haven't seen any console do it as well as the Wii. Because even though like don't get me wrong, like PS3 you could play PS2 and PS1, but the Wii is different because you could just download the games, which let's be honest, most people who play the original Mario and stuff, like they sold it, so by the time they bought the Wii, they don't have it anymore. So the ability to just buy it online for like $5 and play it again, that's a huge deal. And even like the Switch, hasn't been good. Hell, even the Wii U, as far as I'm aware, there's input delay, which gets really annoying, especially like those older games that a lot of them require a bit more precision. And even the Switch, like they've done a bad job with backwards compatibility. Period. Like here's something I'd love to see: a comparison of the virtual console games on Wii versus the ones on Switch. Because I guarantee the Wii had way more than the ones on Switch. And like for someone like me, the Wii introduced me to a lot of these older games that I otherwise probably wouldn't have till much, much later. But at the same time, if you know how to emulate, that's not really a big deal for you. But keeping in the context that the Wii came out in 2006, the internet was still new. I think in that era, having like virtual console titles of older games meant a lot more than it does now. Because now, basically anyone who uses the internet and knows anything about computer can emulate. It's very common. And here's the truth. It's not that hard to find a game on the internet. That's the truth. Now, I still find people online, especially in Discord, who are like, how do I get the ROM of this game? And it's like, how computer illiterate do you have to be to not know? It is so easy. All it takes is a little brain power and you can find it. It's not that hard. So it really does baffle me that people can't find it. Because it's not like you need it's not like you need the torrent to download most of the video games, especially the older ones. Almost all of them you can download online, and you don't need to worry about a virus as much because it's a ROM, not an exe. So you're not going to be running it as an exe. And two, the ROM of like, so let's say an N64 game is the same for every N64 game. Well, that's not exactly true. There's N64, .N64, There's like 3 of them. But anyway, that's not important. Like, the point is that they're like the ending of the ROM, like the ROM, like the file of the ROM is the same for the game you're playing. So like, as long as you have an ad blocker, you don't really need to worry about it. But anyway, the other thing too is there are a lot of people who just sold their Wii, and I think that's showing that the Wii really was a fad in the general sense of the word. Because if you think of any fad, when like you don't care about it anymore, you just get rid of it. And I think that's what most people did with the Wii. And the only people I think will really care about it are the people that play video games a lot. But at the same time, I'm telling you this now, Wii's are still dirt cheap. They were much cheaper 5 years ago, but still they're very cheap. I'm telling you, 10 years from now, at least, there's going to be a nostalgia wave for people like me who grew up with the Wii, who want to play it again, and were stupid and sold their Wii. And they're going to be like, man, I want to play the Wii again. And that's why I think Super Mario All-Stars sold so well on the Switch. Because most people sold their Wii, they don't have Galaxy, so for them to play Galaxy again, like, of course they'll pay $60 just to play Galaxy again. The other 2 games, they don't really care. But for me, I think the Wii this is what I think makes the Wii a great console. The Wii is a GameCube and the Wii. The Wii can natively play GameCube discs, and if you have ROMs, you could just run the ROMs on the Wii. And for me, I didn't grow up with a PC, so I couldn't emulate, but I was able to experience GameCube games because of my Wii. And looking at the price of buying a GameCube alone and GameCube games, the Wii is the best way to play GameCube games natively. Because here's the thing is too, emulators are great, but at the same time, there's emulator errors, and the Wii is the best way, in my opinion, to play GameCube games because it's so cheap, and you could just download the games and play them on the Wii. Now you have to hack it, but that's what's nice is the Wii is really easy to hack. But even if you don't do that, the fact that you play GameCube games for me makes the Wii so good. But that GameCube feature, even though most people probably didn't know about it, for me that makes the Wii worth it in today's day and age. As the GameCube's library alone makes owning a Wii worth it. And then the reason to get a Wii over a GameCube, if you don't think about money, is Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. So, of course you should get a Wii. And then the Virtual Console too. If you own, I'll make another video about the 3DS, but if you own a Wii and a new Nintendo 3DS, you can play basically every Nintendo game up to that generation. With the exception of some Nintendo 64 games, because there's certain ones that didn't release on Virtual Console. It's the ones no one really cares about. Like, Superman 64 was not released on it, obviously, but like, all the N64 games that matter were released on the Wii. So it's by far the best way to play every Nintendo game if you don't have a PC that can run an emulator. Now, at the same time, I don't like. Here's the thing too: is if you own an Xbox or a PlayStation, everyone talks about the games. The one thing I don't see is the controllers. Now, at the end of the day, you could buy things, so you could use whatever controller you want. But an Xbox uses batteries. A PlayStation is rechargeable controller, and I think there's something to think about when even Nintendo's Pro controller doesn't use batteries, because batteries just suck. That's the truth. Batteries suck, and I think that's the biggest downside for the Wii is needing batteries. So if you ever do play a Wii, don't even buy the Wii backs they sold with the rechargeable batteries, because all the ones that exist now, the batteries, rechargeable batteries, have been worn out, so only last for like an hour. Just buy rechargeable batteries at the store. They're like $20, and they get like a battery charger, which I have one here. This is a rechargeable battery charger. Charges 4. This was $20, I think. So it's $40 for never needing batteries again to like 5 years, which is it's like 110 uses, like recharges before you should get a replacement. I think the batteries do bring it down a little bit, but overall, for me, that makes the Wii one of the best consoles. Now, you also have to keep it in context again with um like that's a Nintendo console. You have to keep that in context because there are a lot of great games you can't play on it, and to be honest, the third-party support for the Wii wasn't the greatest, mainly because it was basically as powerful as a GameCube. It's slightly more powerful, where speedruns are slightly faster, but it's not like a massive difference. Like, it makes N64 games run better too, but like, of course it does. Like, it's much more powerful than N64, but if you compare the specs of a GameCube to a Wii, they're basically the exact same. So that's one thing to keep in mind, but at the same time, oh, that's the other thing is if you own a Wii, you have to set up the AV cables, which gets really annoying because everything this uses HDMI, so whenever you use AV, it's such a weird thing to set up. Because I haven't seen those in forever. But I think one of the greatest things the Wii was really good at was multiplayer. Especially because at the end of the day, using a Wii remote, it's very simple. When you hold it like this, there's what? The A button, B button, and D-pad. That's really the buttons you're using. When you hold it like this, you get 2 extra buttons. It's not that complicated. And that's important when you keep in mind of casual gamers, but even more important because even if you like to play games, there are probably people in your family or friends that don't play games as much. So to give someone a controller that's much simpler makes it more accessible to play games with them. And I think that definitely adds value to the Wii, especially Wii Sports. That's a game anybody can play. And even to this day, if you have like any family that doesn't play games that much, that's one of the best games to play because there anyone can understand it. What's weird to think about though is how the Wii used like the internet because that was it had like you could they still the Wii still didn't have like updates. Although the only game they did update, you had to download a Wii channel. That was Skyward Sword because it had a bug. You had to download a Wii channel to fix your save. Like you couldn't update the games. The internet, they had like a news channel. Like here's what I find the craziest thing about the Wii is you could watch Netflix on the Wii. And that was something I had. And growing up, I watched Netflix through my Wii. I find that so crazy. But it's something that's really interesting to think about because now most TVs come with Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, which it'll be really funny when one of those are extinct and you have the controller laying around. That'll be pretty funny. But anyway, it's 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 crazy how fast we went from you need a Wii to watch Netflix to your TV comes with Netflix. You just have to pay for it. Like I find that so crazy. I remember I have so many memories. I would watch. I remember the one show I'd watch was that animated Sonic show. I would just watch on Netflix on the Wii. That was fun. But in many ways, I feel like that kind of made up. No, I'm sure the PS3 probably had Netflix too, but that's one of the things is it kind of made up in a way for the Wii not being able to play DVDs because most people probably had a Blu-ray player laying around anyway, which one of the things I find so crazy is how obsolete DVDs are becoming. Like when people DVDs are going to be one of those things where there will be a generation of kids very soon that will grow up without DVDs because they'll be obsolete. Even though games are still physical, there will be a time where there will be a time where they go. That's going to happen. Especially like seeing how GameStop's doing, like the writing's on the wall. They're gonna just stop making physical games. Like that's the truth, and DVDs will be a thing of the past. Like we already saw it with movies. When's the last time you bought a DVD of a movie? And I think they'll add to making the Wii seem so old. And isn't that crazy to think about? There will be a time where you'll talk about a DVD and there will be kids who won't know what you're talking about. Similar to how, like, VHS tapes are obsolete, now it'll be DVDs. Maybe they'll invent something else that's even better. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll buy games with an SD card, similar to a Switch cartridge, instead of a DVD. Maybe Nintendo was right all along, and cartridges really were better. But to think there was that small moment in time where DVDs were the best way to transport information. Or, I mean, transport, digital files. But to finish things off, the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that you could like the Wii like extensions. I think that's probably the greatest feature of the Wii because even though they only came like the two biggest one was the nunchuck and the classic controller, like people still make things that you could attach the Wii remote to and play games with. But I think that really, like, that's probably the best thing is you have a controller that's simple and you have the ability to transform it, but considering it's for casual gamers, it makes it so much better, mainly because with a controller, it looks complicated and has all the complicated stuff. The Wii remote, you only need to, like, add the stuff that's more complicating when you're playing a game that's single player that needs it. When you're playing a multiplayer game, of course you don't need that. And I thought the classic controller was really a clever way of allowing people to play like Super Nintendo games and N64 games. Now, the design of it isn't perfect, but at the end of the day, it's good. Like, they did a good job with it. Also, one last thing. The final note is that by hands down the best reason why the Wii is better than the GameCube is because on the GameCube there's a special wire you could get for a clear picture, but they're really hard to get. But if you could just get them for the Wii, which I have mine for the Wii. I think I got it from GameStop when I bought a used Wii. Because I had a little sister that liked to put coins in the Wii, so I ended up getting it. When she got older, I got another one so I could play discs. But that came with the clear picture wire, but that also works with the GameCube games. So it's just a better way to do it if you don't have emulation. That's why I have to say the Wii definitely has a special place in my heart, and hands down, probably one of the best Nintendo consoles that has come out. Even though it was gimmicky, it's still a great games and had so much stuff that you could play that was good, and so many there are so many reasons to play a Wii even today, even though not as many. And the amount of features on the Wii definitely makes it such a great console, and it's still worth having today.